welcome to Redemption City Stories. This is, if you're new, this is a podcast from people in our church. And my name is Jeffrey Noblet. I'm the worship arts pastor, which sounds really fancy, here at Redemption City. We have with us today, our special guest is Landon Womack. Insert applause. Woo. Yay. And Landon, you're either the 10th podcast that we've done, 10th story podcast that we've done, which I felt like was very special. Or you could be the 11th, which is just kind of, almost no one remembers the 11th. But since it may be the 10th, I thought, let's switch things up. Let's get Pastor Matt out of here. Let's bring in Courtney Fox, everybody. Courtney Fox is here.
Hey, what up?
And so this is going to be interesting because Landon I've known for years. He's in my city group. Landon and Courtney know each other through a long time too. So we'll see how we get through this and hopefully hear all of Landon's story and not just go off on side trails. So
that'd be fun.
We got this.
Yeah, we got this. It'll be fine. So usually we like to start at the beginning. So Landon, tell us where you grew up and just a little bit about your background. You can include faith in there or just whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. So yeah, grew up in Oklahoma. So sorry for everybody that's not from Oklahoma, right? Kind of stinks, but yeah, grew up in Oklahoma. My parents, Laura and Eugene Womack, right?
Names, love the Eugene.
So yep, Eugene, his favorite name, goes by Eric, but Eugene's his real name.
Oh, okay.
We'll get it on record.
Yeah.
Right? No, so grew up there. I don't know, like pretty normal childhood in the beginning, right? Had a little brother, Ethan. So, but pretty normal upbringing when I was little. Spent a lot of time with my grandparents, Nora and JB, right? They were probably the first ones who ever got me into church. They're both very Methodist grandmother, right? So very traditional. And spent a lot of time with them like in the summers. And I would say that was probably the first like ever example of like Christian faith, going to church, like actually having a relationship with God. Didn't get that at home, got that from my grandparents, right? Definitely saw that substantially more from them than my own family. Growing up, like when I was little, just church was not a priority, right? Wasn't even on the radar. Didn't probably get on the radar for me till I was a teenager. My parents spent most of their time like had their own business. So a whole lot of their time, effort, and energy. I feel like looking back on it now as an adult with kids, right? You kind of have perspective changes a lot. They spent a lot of time on the business, probably didn't spend a ton of time with me and the brother, right? Because the business was kind of priority. So grew up kind of in that environment. It was still good at the time, right? Didn't realize anything seemed off until you like get older and you have your own kids. You're like, oh, I would never miss that. Or I would be involved with this or would be doing those things. At the time, you're just a kid and you're just,
that's normal for you.
Yeah, it totally is what it is to be like a latchkey kid. But so went through that. Pretty normal upbringing. Didn't come to Christ till I was 15, I guess. Yeah, I was 15 because I wasn't driving yet because I still had my friends that drove me around. And I had before I came to Christ, had just a real, just crazy life, right? Because my parents weren't super involved. I could get away with murder, right? Yeah. I was a hood rat, right? Degenerate, whatever you want to use.
From Oklahoma.
Yeah. Right. So let us just paint the picture, right?
Yeah.
Bumpkin from Oklahoma with no rules. So grew up that way, and the guy who led me to Christ, Jared Michael Hale, was one of my great friends. Knew him through band. He had been praying for me with another group of guys for years.
Oh my gosh.
Because it had been laid on their heart to pray for me because he was like, thought I would be a good leader and all these things. And the Lord had put it on his heart I need to share the gospel with this guy. And probably because I was a challenge, right? That was kind of how like Jared led into things like, oh, this is going to be real difficult. We got to do it.
Yeah.
So before coming to Christ, right? Like I was, I probably started drinking when I was about 13 or so. Probably 13 to 14, somewhere in there, because clearly didn't have a vehicle, right? Because remember drinking and like riding on bicycles.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
That's brave.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Difficult to say the least.
Yeah. So that was definitely, and it snuck out all the time. Yeah. Like just led a pretty, I would say, not even normal, probably much more of the world than what like a normal teenager would go through, right? Because I didn't have a lot of that parental oversight. And I think like now as an adult, there's no way my parents didn't know all the stupid things I was
Yeah.
doing and sneaking out and
Mhm.
doing drugs and stuff like. There's no way they didn't know. At least I hope. At least I hope they
Yeah.
didn't know. But I
Yeah.
think that was just their lack of involvement with us growing up. It was just one of those deals of like, oh, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Did grandma know?
Grandma didn't know. Oh
Okay.
no. Oh no. Because I would have got my arm pinched in church. Like
Yeah.
if I sat
Not
beside
a
her.
pinch, a pinch.
A pinch.
Yeah, it's different.
To be pinched.
Hmm.
It's really hurt.
No, like yeah, I could have been in church with grandma and like even like was fidgety and there was going to be like the arm pinch or like the ear pull or the whatever. Like grandma was, she was very straight laced, Granny Brown, right?
Yeah.
But no, that's before coming to Christ. Like that was who I was, right?
Yep.
It was just led a very questionable life with in the dating area of things, like just really not a Christ-like life in any way, shape, or form. So, good buddy Jared, right, who basically worked on me and planted seeds for years, finally got me to come to Christ. And we were upstairs in his bedroom with a few other buddies that were all praying for me. And it was like 4:30 in the morning when finally like accepted Christ. And everybody's excited, jumping around. And I will never forget, his mom was like the nicest, Kathy, the nicest, sweetest lady in the world. She came upstairs. She's like, I don't know what the heck
What's
you guys are
happening?
doing.
What is going on?
Yeah, and then Jared's like, Landon accepted Christ. And she was like, you could tell she was like half asleep, half awake.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, that's great. I'm so excited for you guys. Go to bed.
We can talk about it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Congrats.
He'll still
Here you
know the
go.
Lord at 8 o'clock in the morning. She was very upset. But so that was like coming to Christ. That really didn't change anything in my life, right? It kind of did, right? Because then I started reading the Bible a little bit, but it didn't change all the extracurricular hood rat activities.
Yeah, it still is ingrained in you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely, as an adult now, I can look back and say, like, as a teenager, like I've only realized it now as an adult. Definitely had like major addiction issues, like major addiction issues. Still do as an adult. It's under control at this point. I don't think as a person who would say like you're an addict, I don't think you ever become not an addict, right? It just ends up being like one vice for another. And that's what it was when I was a teen, whether it was, drugs or sex or this, it was always just one fix to the next. Never got away from any of that. So when I came to know Christ, that changed a little bit, but not a lot, right? There was that initial like Christian high where things were so good and everything was different and better. And then 6 months later, right, same thing. Kind of led a little bit of a double life for a little while. And, I had at least good Christian influences that poured into me that would like see those things and would see those, like those gray areas and realize like, oh, okay, come on. We're not.
So they would call you out on it?
Oh,
or would
yeah.
they,
Oh,
okay.
very good about accountability.
Yeah.
Jared was. And even like his dad was pretty straight-laced, right? He never got into the weeds with me, but I think that's the reason Jared was the way he was. Yeah. And Jared, no problem being like, well, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah. Doesn't line up.
Which was good because without that.
It's so great to have friends like that.
Oh, yeah, especially as teens, right? Where it's like super uncomfortable to have those conversations.
Very uncommon.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, you out at 2 o'clock in the morning, what's going on? You're like, oh, nothing, man. And you're like, absolutely not. I know
sure.
I know that's BS. So it had great accountability that probably kept me from going further off the rails, but still all, from that like 15 to, probably 18, right? Still led basically 2 completely different lives, right? Had a life in church on Sundays and would go to youth on Wednesdays, really involved, but would still like hang out and do questionable things with the opposite sex, right? Right. And like it just, I was able to do both, and because I didn't really have, I think at that point, like a real relationship with the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Had accepted Christ, I would say, right?
Sure.
Knew who God was, knew what had been done for me, but wasn't pouring into the Bible on the regular, wasn't actually like relying on, Christ for the day to day, right? And it was years later that I think before I got to that point.
Yeah.
What would you say was like the moment of the like switch? Maybe not the moment of, but like when did you really see it start to shift into that, like where those things became more of a priority, like living a Christ-like life?
Like couple things. So when I was probably 18, we were at Falls Creek, right? Big old church camp.
Yep.
So we were at Falls Creek doing that whole deal with our church, and had and still to this day gives me like the goosebumps, right? Had a like audible call experience, right? And not when they're doing like, hey, come down front and do this and all these things. It was just like very random. And I was like, oh, that's really felt like somebody was right beside me saying, hey, I think you need to go down front. And I was like, that was weird. And then one of my buddies who was not, I mean, he was religious, but not super religious. He was there because he goes to church. He was kind of looked at me and goes, hey, I think you need to go down front. And I was like, what? I was like, of all people, from you,
you're gonna tell me?
Yeah. You need to go down.
You and me have done the same things.
Yeah.
How about we go together?
And it was one of those of like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I need to go down front. So went down front, and that was kind of a little bit of a recommitment and realignment in my life. That was one of the first times that I actually felt, guilt and shame for like leading two different styles of life, right? Beforehand, it was just like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's probably the bad thing. But
didn't affect you.
Yeah, it didn't affect me, right?
Yeah.
Really enjoyed drugs. So, I mean, because my thought process back then was like, look, life's fun. Just enjoy it. Just do it. And I distinctly remember telling like one of our close friends that was kind of in our same Christian circle, like, look, if you don't enjoy drugs, you're doing it wrong. Drugs are great. That's why people like drugs.
Right.
Like you don't not do drugs because they're not awesome.
Right.
You don't do drugs because of all the consequences and all the things and all the impact and hurt it comes from it. In the moment, it's awesome, right?
Yep.
Afterwards, there's all these consequences and things that come from it. Like I distinctly remember having that conversation at like 17 or 18. So have that kind of audible call experience, go down front, really feel the Lord calling me into, ministry and to do something different with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just at that point on fire for the Lord. Just totally changed. And it wasn't like the, hey, camp high, and then it faded away after a few months. It was noticeably different. So then immediately came back, decided, hey, I don't want to go to the school I wanted to go to. I want to go to OBU. But because I was such a awesome kid in high school, right, couldn't get into OBU. There was no way.
Oh, no.
They were like, we politely decline. So I had to go to another school for a little while and went out there and, kind of rode both lines, right? A Christ life and then a, freshman in college, going back into my old ways. And that was really when I had just went fully off the rails, right?
Really? Yeah.
Like it was totally normal for me at that point to like start drinking at like 2:00 in the afternoon and not be like a big deal, like, oh, classes are over. And that's just the world I lived in when I was out there.
Not surrounded by good people at that point, or were you still trying to find like a home base spiritually?
Yeah, still
there?
trying, like never got plugged into a church out there. So, right, that's like I see it now, like when I went to OBU and other places afterwards, and I see it now with like college students, like if there's any college students listen to this, holy crap, get plugged into a church.
Yeah.
Like whether it means you drive home every weekend, probably not the best option, right? Find a local church to get plugged into.
Yeah.
Didn't have that, so didn't get plugged into it. And then it was a big, like, it was tough for me because I made it tough for me, right? I had this audible call experience. I want to go into youth ministry, want to do youth ministry, want to do all these things. And then I had to go to this other school. So I felt like slighted, right? In my mind, I had this vision. All right, cool. My life has actually changed. I figured it out. And then I felt like I had to step backwards and then just basically kind of went back into the old ways of things that I was doing.
Did you go ahead?
Did that make you like question like what God had called you to? Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and like affect the faith that like was there building and kind of be like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like,
it made me be like, okay, maybe I did just like imagine that. It was in my mind and it wasn't like legit. Because if it was legit, I would be at OBU where I thought I was supposed to be and I would
My
go.
plan would have worked.
My plan. Yeah, there's a lot of eyes and knees, right, in my life story, right? Pride's a tough thing. So that was really hard. And yeah, I probably somehow I went to school, never got in major trouble for 6+ months that I was out there. But yeah, didn't really even lead a Christ-like life because I wasn't going home on the weekends, wasn't plugged back into church, didn't have the same people pouring back out into me. And of course, go figure, most of the people that I hung out in high school with that were all, not awesome individuals, they all went to the same school I did because we don't have good grades. This is where you end up. Weird. We all ended up at the same place. It's crazy how that worked out. So had a really tough time there. Luckily, somehow my grades in college were really good for that first little bit. So OBU was like, yeah, sure. We've realized that you can put some structure in your life. Awesome. Come over. So went over to OBU the following semester. And still struggled with this two kind of life dichotomy, right?
Mhm.
Where I was getting plugged into ministry, doing youth ministry stuff, like actually involved, but still really struggled with addiction and just really didn't drink at that point when I was at OBU very much for the first couple of years. Struggled more a little bit with just, I say easy drugs at this point, right? Weed, right? I wasn't doing some of the same stuff I used to do, but still just really struggled with that. And it's really, really hard when you're in a like hyper-focused Christian environment,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's really, really hard. Right? So I felt like this constant struggle of, one, I didn't have any true connections because I didn't get plugged in with anybody. And it was strange, right? I had the little bit of Christian outreach that I had when I was at the previous school, right? And the accountability that came with that. There was almost no accountability at a Christian school.
Yeah.
That's what was so weird, right? You got around all the, I hate to say the holy rollers, but all the holy rollers, and there was almost no accountability, which was tough for me, right? Because I still think at that point, like at that point, I had no idea that I had any addiction issues or tendencies. I was like, I'm just a normal person. It is what it is.
Right.
So I had no accountability there. So really struggled for like the first probably year. Did get plugged into a local church a little bit, and that helped, right? Because then you had some accountability, you found some peers, some common ground, but still was really struggling with this whole, I really like this aspect of the world I live in, right? And doing these things. And then I do feel called and kind of led, or that I should be doing something more ministry-wise. I just couldn't figure out what it was. And I went through a big struggle when I was at OBU because, once again, like, right, mental strife, probably because I didn't have a great relationship with the Lord, right? But went through this big struggle of feel called to do these things. But as I got more and more ingrained in church, the more, I guess, upset I got with church, right? I hadn't had any like real church hurt because I hadn't really been super involved in church at that point, right? I did in high school a little bit, but the more I saw, it really bugged me that I could go into college to minister for the rest of my life, right? To youth. That's what I really felt called to do, was do youth ministry, and really wanted to do it. But I felt that I could go in, do that, and it bugged me that I could go to school and get out with like almost no deep biblical studies, right? It was almost like, oh, if you're in youth ministry, hey man, learn how to do table tennis 101 and learn how to do this, and here's a basic counseling class, and man, you're set to rip. Let them have it. That really bugged me, and I let that become a huge stumbling block for me. And then started to actually build more of a relationship with the Lord finally, and it was an actual relationship at that point. It wasn't, oh, hey, I accepted Christ, I'm doing this. It was actually, okay, I'm going to spend time in the Word. I'm going to like actually have, pauses in my day to just listen to what the Lord has to say, right? Just actual legitimate quiet times is kind of when that finally started.
Was that just based off of knowing you needed something, or the frustration did that?
The frustration did that,
Okay.
because it was more of a, why, God, why are things like this? And it was, right, I think there's some legitimacy to that, right? If you're going into ministry, right, cool, table tennis is important if you're in youth ministry, but yeah, you should know some deep biblical understanding, and you should have a deep understanding, especially working with kids, like counseling and how to work with teens and how to work with young adults. And there just wasn't any of that. And it blew me away. Like I was,
because you're like, that was a pivotal moment in you were a teenager when your life changed, right? So you're like, hello,
like this, we should be going through these things. And
Right.
it was definitely not that. Like, right. It was like some speaking 101 type thing.
Yeah,
And just
basics.
And then I would look at like the individuals that I knew that were going into like, lead pastorship, right? Head ministry, totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. And I definitely didn't have any calling or feeling to go that direction. Wanted to focus on youth, but that became a huge stumbling block for me. And that stumbling block turned into what caused me to actually have regular like relationship with the Lord and actually really spend time in the Bible, not just, hey, I'm studying for my class and learning about XYZ, but actually spending time, deep dive into the Bible. So that's when I would say at that point is when I finally had a relationship with the Lord. And then from there, right, that's kind of, I would say my relationship with God actually like was something. It wasn't just a one-way street. It was actually like a two-way, hey, I'm going to talk about this with you. I'm going to figure it out with you. Like, I'm in this together. Like I need assistance, God. So that was the other time I feel like that my Christian walk kind of shifted and changed. And then the final time, which what got me to where I am today, I would say was I went to a kids camp, right? A student camp, Camp Buckner.
Mm-hmm.
Strange enough, that's where I met Brittany, right?
Hey.
Right, my better half. And when you work if you've never worked at a Christian camp or any camp for that matter, right? You are dead inside because you work like 14 hours a day. There's little kids that some do amazing things, some do awful things, and you have like 4 hours of sleep. It's South Texas. It's hot all the time. So the only way you get through that, especially being able to, pour Christ out into kids that are coming to learn about Jesus, is because it's not just, hey, I'm in the Word, I'm talking to God. You actually have to give up and rely on the Lord. And that for me was like the actual shift of, okay, it's not me doing it. It's not me getting through this. It's not me being good at this. It's not XYZ. It's, oh my gosh, I'm only going to make it through the day because I know I'm going to have like a 15-minute quiet time at night. And I'm going to teach these kids about Christ, and we're going to talk through it. And I'm going to spend like 10 minutes by myself just in prayer. And the lack of sleep, the lack of energy, the lack of everything gets washed away. At least it did for me, right? You just got absolved because God was pouring back into you to go, okay, cool. You're here right now. This is what I need you doing.
Yes.
That was, I would say, like the final shift kind of in my Christian walk that got me where I was today to actually realize like, okay, it's not just learning the Bible. It's not works-based. It's not this. It is truly having reliance on the Lord in those really, weak, broken moments to get you through. And when you do that, it's crazy. You magically get through it because Christ is walking right there with you and going, okay, you need energy? I got you.
Waiting for you to get that realization, because I think, a lot of us, Courtney's in the room as our kids minister, and I've done student ministry before. There's hardly anything to compare to camp tiredness. If you've been there.
It's
because there's this
unmatched.
spiritual aspect of like shepherding these kids. And so that exhaustion can get you to a good place though, where like you're saying, you're relying on the Holy Spirit. I wanted to ask you something you brought up earlier. You said, speaking of addiction, I think we have a lot of people in the church that may know you, but not know your full story of like, oh, I didn't know Landon deals with addiction. I do, because if y'all know Landon, he's very open in our city group. And that's one thing I love about you is you're very open about your journey, not just with addiction, but just with marriage, kids. We talk about all that in our city groups. Small plug for city groups. If you don't have one, go check one out. You need to get into one.
they're the best.
They're the
Shameless
best.
plug. Yep.
Shameless plug. But you said something that I've heard you say before, but as much as you're comfortable with, you said, I always feel like I'm going to be addicted to something. That may be like kind of shocking for people. Unpack that a little bit of like, what does that look like in your daily walk now? Because how does that mindset shift as someone who may be hearing that and go, that's me, that's me. I feel like I can't stop. I may have looked up what is an addict, and they see themselves. So how would you encourage someone or just kind of tell us about how you walk that out in your journey?
Yeah. So I didn't realize I was an adult, right? So I was like married, right? That, oh, maybe I have a problem. I guess with addiction, right? At least my take on it, right? From going through some recovery and working through some things and talking to some people, I don't think if you're truly an addict, you don't ever become not an addict, right? It either gets suppressed or refocused. That's basically, in my experience, that's it. Look, I didn't love doing hard drugs. I didn't love drinking. I just loved the fix of being high or being in a different mental state, right? Probably because growing up, right, didn't have a lot of like parents engaged, right? Didn't have a ton of love in my life. Looking back on it now as an adult, at the time, you're like, oh, it was normal.
Yeah.
As an adult, you look back and like, oh, that was totally not normal.
Yeah.
So for me, right, until I got to, I would say probably 8 to 10 years ago, right, early 30s, I would say is when I finally realized like, oh, okay, maybe I actually have a problem. And that was kind of the shift for me, was first realizing like, okay, maybe I have an issue. I think at one point, right, as I got older, it was before me and Brittany got married, right? I don't drink all that much now anymore, right? I do like wine, do like beer, whatever. But for me, it was, I could tell I was going to be drinking not because I liked the taste of wine, because we're having a great dinner, right? I like the effects that wine did, or I like the effects that beer did.
Very subtle difference, right?
Yeah, and I think that's right. Right, the reasons matter. Am I having beer because I'm just going out and we're having burger with the guys and doing whatever, or is it okay? I'm going to have 2 or 3 beers and I will feel different. Right, the end goal was different.
Right.
Right, it wasn't satisfaction of taste; it was satisfaction of what happens after the fact.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to realize that, and I would say still to this day, right? This is going to sound hopefully not sound super dark. I would totally love to get high, right? I know that sounds awful to say. I love that feeling of that mental state it gives you, right?
Yeah.
I do.
I think if people are honest though, that are trying to get out of that lifestyle, it's hard to admit that because you feel bad. You're like, wait, I have started a relationship with Jesus, kind of like you're saying, but it's almost like getting to that point of going, but I still want this God. And I think I can speak for myself for different areas of my life of going, I'm too scared to say this sentence out loud that I just need to say it.
Yeah.
Because Jesus is there and understands that pull.
Yeah.
So
I think the Lord really understands the desire, right? Look, I would love to go and I would love to go and do that every day or drink every day, right? And just have that slight buzz or edge off. But clearly that's not okay for the multitude of reasons, right? You're not in control of your body. The Bible lays that out pretty clearly, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily good for your body, right? It's not good for your family and friends and everything else you're trying to do.
Right.
But still, that desire 100% is in the back of my head, right? There was some dark moments in my life on that. But for me, what I realized, the addiction, right? It gets, like I said, refocused. For me, it turned into at least being basically hyper-focused at work.
Yeah.
Right? So I spend a lot of time doing the job I do and the things I invest time in, or a project at the house or whatever. For me, it was being able to take that addiction and instead of it being, drug, sex, rock and roll, whatever, right? All those things, it was focusing into something that was productive. And for me, as I've gotten older, I've realized it's more of the mental state of, if I'm not busy, that's what I would fall into.
Yeah.
Right. So if I wasn't going 100 miles a minute, like it'd be, that's just what we're going to do. Right.
Yeah.
So now as an adult, right, it's the one thing that probably makes my wife crazy. Like I can't sit still. I can't. Part of it's kind of how I'm wired, but part of it's mentally, I think I know in the back of my mind now that I've, kind of worked through it some is like, I can't sit still and do nothing. Right. I have to be doing something. I'm sure there's a bunch of mental health things tied to that, but it is truly addiction for me has just been refocused into stuff that is productive and beneficial as opposed to stuff that's, hyper destructive.
Yeah.
But I would say to this day, still struggle with addiction. Like that's like, I think some people can use drugs, be it drugs, alcohol, anywhere in between, right? Nicotine, any of that stuff. I think they can use that on the spectrum of I'm just out for the weekend or I'm just out for that. For somebody that's an addict, like you can't.
Yeah.
There's none of
There
that.
can't be an exception to it.
It's an all or nothing kind of thing. So for me, right, it's nothing. And for most people, it should be nothing, right? It breaks a lot of laws and it's not great for your body, doesn't follow scripture. There's a whole myriad of reasons why. But for me, that's what I realized is my addiction has gotten hyper-focused back into other things, be it family, be it work, be it projects at the house. And I don't think that addiction tendency will ever go away, right? Which sucks. It is what it is. But knowing that and being able to work through it, I think is helpful. It's been good because I've been able to help some people through some similar situations, or at least see the hurt on horizon for some people, right?
Yeah,
as some bad situations are going on, hopefully to those people or to those around them, like, hey, look, there's a spiral
Seeing some
coming.
patterns,
Right.
You probably see them before they do. Most of the time.
Because look, I've been through that.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you've seen the part of like the consequences aren't just your own in that moment either, right? Like I mean, you make the decision, but then like it affects everyone you love, and it, so I'm sure having you go ahead of these people to like be like, hey, listen, and people are gonna do what they're gonna do, but like just the wisdom to go, I actually have been there, like I know, what this is gonna bring. Like I think that's so important for people, and it's, I don't know, I just feel like when addiction is talked about, I think when we don't understand, it can feel so cut and dry, and that's just not like the reality of it for, I would say, most people I know who would consider
Yeah,
addiction and part of their life.
I would agree, and I think a lot of people that have addiction issues or tendencies, and there's just so much shame there.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Right, because it's especially, at least for me, right, pretty prideful. It's an issue I have at times. That's really hard to admit. Hey, I'm not in control. I can't do
Yeah,
anything with this.
For sure.
And what are they going to say?
Yeah, what are people
Yeah.
going to think? Like, oh crap. And I think, unfortunately, once you label yourself an addict, or other people label you an addict, right? 'Cause
Either way.
Yeah.
usually that's how it happens. People label you first. It's weird. It's usually the process. Yeah, there's a lot of shame that comes with that, like that label, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. I know that's unfortunately that's reality for me. Be great if it changes someday. I highly doubt it's ever going to. So you just find a way to deal with it and refocus and be aware of those potential stumbling blocks for you on your, Christian walk and faith and stuff like that.
So how are you today, Landon, versus the Landon that you said securely, and I have a similar story of, yes, I believe in Jesus, that is sealed, right? And we know that from Scripture that we are good, like God has adopted us into his family. For the listener who's heard just the kind of unraveling of different things, it may be kind of hard sometimes for us to go, well, wait, if he knows God, how does that work? So on this side of it, seeing all the stuff that's happened, some of the decisions that you made that have impacted your family and everything, what's the biggest difference? And I'm not talking about just in you, but like the thing that popped into my mind when you're talking about addiction is like renewing your mind. And that's a huge, science is now saying that there's new pathways that are created when we literally just turn our attention to something else. So what do you see around you and inside of you that's different from the moment that you said, yes, I'm following Jesus, to now where, yes, I struggle, but I'm going after him? What's different in your life and in your surroundings?
Yeah, I think the immediate realization was, right, I felt like back in the day, as my 8-year-old say, the 1900s, right? Long time ago.
So terrible. That's mean.
That's
real mean.
It's so mean.
I guess not 8, almost. It was, right, I was doing a quiet time because you had to, right? And I definitely, as an early Christian, it was very legalistic. That was a big struggle for me. I would say that is the biggest shift from then to now is beforehand it was out of obligation, right? Now it's out of like desire.
Yep.
That was the biggest change I would say in my Christian walk. Beforehand it was like, okay, well, I got to read through this part of the Bible because it's in my Bible study, and I got to get through these many chapters in 30 days because I said I would with these other guys.
Yeah.
And now it's actually like a desire to do that. It's an actual desire to come to the Lord with my problems, right? It's an actual desire to go, instead of listening to music when I make a 45-minute trip to work, or if I'm driving, out of market into another area of Texas, cool, I'm going to listen to the Bible, right? And just have the word spoken over you. I'm going to, instead of like listening to a random podcast, I'm going to listen to somebody talk about like the end times and what does this mean, or, an actual like exposition on an excerpt of scripture, right? Like it's that desire changed. And when that desire changed, I feel like a lot of the appetites and things changed as well too, right? Because then that was the lens you start seeing everything through. And it's weird. It took a long time, right? But once you start having that, I think, desire to spend with God, which, right, only comes by in at least my walk, right? It wasn't a desire in the beginning. It was the forced, legalistic, right? I got to do this. I got to do this, right? And that turned into the relationship that then at one point just shifted along the road of, I don't have to do this. I want to do this, right? I want to spend time in Scripture. And then it's weird how when that changed, how opportunities and stuff opened up either in personal life, through work, right? To either be able to share the gospel with people. I've had a few of those, but really to be able to minister to people in certain situations, right? Where there is not Matt was talking on stage today, about business and how people just are ruthless at times, right? How in those scenarios, not having to be that person and be able to say, no, we're going to do things different, right? We're going to show people grace and humility, and you lead Christ first in a lot of situations like that. It's nice when you can share the gospel and put that over people. But even when you're not capable of doing that for whatever reason, right? Just being able to plant the seeds of grace on people that might not have deserved it.
Yeah.
But I would say that was the biggest shift for me, is when it became a a desire and a want and almost a need to, right? After that year I spent at camp, when you're in that camp tiredness,
Yeah.
like where you get that of without having time in the Word or time in Scripture or praying, there is a big gap.
Yeah.
That was the big shift for me is when that happened, and I can't tell you the definitive. Oh, I mean, it happened on this day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I don't.
It was one of those things. 6 months later, all of a sudden, like, okay, you don't have a couple quiet times, or you don't spend time in the Word, and you're just like, man, I feel awful, and you're like, oh,
Right.
maybe it's because I'm not reading the Bible. That might
Wait a
be
minute.
it.
Wait a
Hold
minute.
on.
That could be it. And then you do it, and you're like, no, I feel. Oh, this was it. That's crazy.
Yeah, there is like a almost immediate relief, I think, now
Mm-hmm.
in my walk when it's like, oh yeah, like you just forget. Like it's like when your kids are tired and like you see this in the back probably a lot, Courtney, where you're like, oh wait, they just need a nap.
You're just exhausted.
You're just exhausted.
Yeah.
And so I think that's true. And I love what you just shared about your I don't know when shifts happen for me. I think there are little micro shifts here, then a major shift at a camp or like a conference, and then you're like, oh, go back to this lifestyle. And so it's a testament to God's grace and patience with us. One thing that you may not see, but I can attest to as your friend is I think God's used your story a lot in our group. And I don't know if you remember just some of our other members in the group when you, I don't know if you planned on sharing about your journey with addiction, but it broke open some conversations with other people in our group. And I feel like that was a huge shift, talking about shifts in our group, to go, wait, we really need to like Matt talks about from the stage, we really need to go like deeper. Like, what does that look like? What usually takes one person going first. And I think you did a great job of that, of going, well, my wife already knows, so why don't you
Yeah.
welcome.
She shares with everybody
She's
else.
already sat through some
Yeah.
of this and seen the ruin that comes from it before we got married, right? She's seen the after effects. And it wasn't always like that, right? I really struggled talking about addiction. That saying like in my 30s, right? I had a guy at a previous church we went to who had gone to jail, had a life of addiction, a bunch of problems, a bunch of issues, and he was super open about his story, right? Very open about his story, got up for the youth and talked about it and all that stuff. And it took talking to him and seeing how, okay, yeah, all these awful things happened to you, similar life story with me, and yet you're using this as a tool to either further the gospel.
Yeah.
You're using it to not hold you back, right? It's not a burden or a scarlet letter on your chest.
No.
It's just, hey, it is what it is. That's not who I am now.
Yeah.
And that was the guy, right? Without dropping his name, that was the guy that changed my mind shift on it. Of like, yeah, look, some of this stuff is awful and it's gross and it's messy, and that's what makes you who you are.
Yeah.
Move on, and you can either let it hold you down or you can keep going.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think that's really important and kind of reflects what Paul talked about in the Bible. Paul, he like so ashamed of the things that he did. He actually killed or stood by while people were killed and persecuted the church. And it's not like, because I'm sure you don't want to be like the addiction guy. I could imagine that could be
I would
like,
prefer not to be used up on church on
you know what I
Sundays.
mean?
Yeah.
Like that's got to be a
Yeah.
hard position to be in. So I think you do that well, where you're not, what do you call that? Making light of it, and you're not like trying to like shock and awe is what shock and awe people. Like, this is what I think you walk that line well of, this was before Jesus though.
Yeah.
And it was pretty bad. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, there's some rough days.
Well, a little messy.
Yeah. A little messy, and let me be a warning to you. So,
Yeah.
Courtney, do you have any other questions?
Well, I had one that I was thinking of, and I'm going to kind of turn us a little bit back to
Turn
something
us.
you said earlier. And if you don't want to talk about it, obviously you don't have to.
Okay.
But you talked about your parents and just like how your view of being a dad. I'm thinking through some people that I know who I would say like similar-ish, right, with the relationship with their parents and maybe them being kind of absent or just their parenting was different or whatever. However you want to say that. How did it shift for like? How did you recognize like, oh, I want to be different as a dad? And I think everyone has these things to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all trying to be better, and so like, what was that shift? And like, how would you encourage someone to be like, hey, it doesn't have to be the same for you. Like you can be a different dad than your dad maybe was.
Yeah. For me, like the realization was my father-in-law, right? Father-in-law, he probably from day one, right? he loved me unconditionally and treated me like his own kid,
Mm-hmm.
right? And hadn't really gotten that at home, right? Father-in-law, I still think he likes me, right?
Yeah,
think
I
he
think
loves
so.
me.
He does. Yeah.
I'm his favorite son, his only son, but his favorite son. So I'll keep it for now. That was when I think I realized, like, okay, maybe my upbringing wasn't totally normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, Brittany and I would talk through things when we were like dating or early married. Is early married, and then once we had kids, that it was like, oh, this is actually like really, my family was really broken. Like this
Mhm.
wasn't good. This isn't how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then realized just as we got older and then had kids to see like the level of involvement from my family versus right the interactions with her family, right? Being able to see the two sides, and you hate to compare and contrast, right? But it is what it is. Being able to see what like people that actually like want to have a relationship with you, want to invest in you, and that was the big shift I think for me, because I realized like initially I remember when me and Brittany first dated, and she would talk about like all the things her dad did for her birthdays when she was growing up or things like that, and I was like, my family never did that. Your dad was just over the top. I definitely remember thinking
sure.
like,
Chill, bro.
there's
Yeah.
no way I'm ever going to live up to John Rendon. This is the worst.
He is a legend.
He
That's
is.
true.
Yeah. So that was one of the things like, I'm never going to live up to this. And then you realize like, okay, yeah, it's still going to be really hard to live up to John, but the shift from entry level to what John did to how my parents were, right? There's a giant gap there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like the mental of, okay, yeah, what I saw growing up is definitely not how I'm going to be, right?
Yeah.
And you have to constantly make those, at least I do, have to constantly make those decisions to not put work before my family or not put these other priorities before my family, right?
Mhm.
And actually, not put my kids, just like my parents let me play video games all the time when I was little, right? Like no time in the afternoon spent with me when they'd be home from work. In the evenings, no big deal. You could just play games all day. No big deal. Right? Being purposeful and intentional with your time.
Yeah.
I think what I saw with my parents is myself and my brother time was invested in us when we had the same hobbies or were convenient.
Yeah.
And then when we weren't aligned with those hobbies or convenient, then it was what it was. You're
Yeah.
another person in the house,
Yep.
right? Dad loved me and spent a bunch of time with me when we would go deer hunt or go hiking and backpacking. But if it wasn't those things, it was just it is what it is. You're just another person here in the Womack house.
Yeah.
So now, right, as a parent, have to think about that and be real intentional to not fall back into those same, generational habits and things that like I
Right.
saw and grew up with.
Yeah.
But yeah, just relationship with him today, still not great, right? We've had a big falling out right around the time me and Brittany got married, because that was a real tough time for my parents and me and Brittany for a multitude of things that I guess we can get into. There's some doozies in there,
Mm-hmm.
right, in marriage and life. But yeah, that's just have to be purposeful, and I think have a good example too, right? John, right, at the time he was raising Brittany, and he has a relationship with the Lord now, but at the time, didn't. At least I don't think, or he was probably sprinkled as a baby, right? But now it's like having good examples that are in the same stage of life of me,
Yeah.
to see how they deal with hurt and heartbreak
Yeah.
and how they deal with parenting in the home, and having people that you can talk to and just be like, okay, I'm going through this with my kid. What are you doing? And it not just be somebody who's going through it from the worldly standpoint. It's somebody that's going to go through it that also has, the lens of Christ,
Yeah.
how they're going to parent and how they're going to do things. I think
Yeah.
that's really important. One, because you get good ideas, but two, it also holds you accountable when you say
Yeah.
something and somebody goes, I don't know, man.
I don't know
Probably-
about that.
You
Probably could have handled that
sure-
differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably wasn't the Christ-like way to teach my kids about something, right? There's been some of those moments where you think back to it afterwards or talk about it with somebody, you go, you probably missed the mark on that.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Oh, that's good.
In some of your early on, so for those of you who don't know, I've known Brittany Womack now. She was Brittany Rendon back then, a long time.
Yep.
And so not a perfect family, but like you're saying, great mom and dad, and so how have those conversations with you and Brittany worked out as far as like you mentioned it a little bit of like parenting, but getting on the same page. For some of our younger couples, I'm thinking, what is an encouragement? It doesn't have to be like profound or anything, but just what do you remember that would have been really helpful as you're starting out from someone with a very different background from you? As someone myself who was raised in a Christian home, my wife was not. And so I just don't honestly remember people saying, hey, keep this in mind. You know, I can think of things now, but like, what would you encourage some of our younger folks that are kind of maybe in that same, you know, part of life?
Yeah. So look, early marriage, I guess the most important thing that I would say to anybody that's about to get married, right? Holy crap, go see a pastor or a counselor that is
Yes.
Christian based
Yes.
before you get married.
Yes.
Right? Because you're
Yeah.
thinking about all the cool things of marriage. Like,
Right.
oh, I'm not going to go into all those, but all the cool
But you
things
know
of
'em.
marriage. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the really cool things of
Yeah.
marriage.
I've been married for 16 years and we have 3 kids. There's some cool things,
There's
right?
very cool things, yeah.
Look, so you get caught up, I think, in all the fun and all the new things that will come into your life, right? Living together, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You need to sit down with a Christian counselor before you get married. Me and Brittany did not.
Yeah.
Had intentions of doing it, right? Great intentions, horrible execution, right? We lived in different areas. I was in Oklahoma, she was in Texas. Turned into one of those things. It's just inconvenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably would have made a huge difference early on in our marriage had we seen a good biblical Christian counselor
Yeah.
that was invested in us, right? And invested in us being successful and staying focused on the Lord. Because that's real hard, right? As a guy, all of a sudden you're going to be the spiritual leader of not just yourself, but of somebody else, right? And as a 20-year-old dude, you have no idea what that
You're
means.
like,
Right.
what does that
Right.
word mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're-
Spiritual leader. What am I doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're remembering just to eat food every day
Right.
and like not die. Like those
Right.
are the goals
Right.
for a 20-year-old male. Like eat every day, not die.
Wash the dishes.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
they fall over the edge,
Wash
like
your
that's
clothes.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wash your clothes, you can turn them inside out. It's
Yeah.
totally cool.
Oh my gosh. Men live different lives.
Literally.
Yeah,
That's all
it was
I'm-
rough
yeah.
times.
Rough times.
But no, as early marriage couple, right? If you're fixing to get married in a year or 6 months from now, see a biblical counselor who is not just one you found online, right? See somebody that your church recommends that has been vetted, that has sound scriptural advice, that hopefully has some type of counseling background to walk you through what it means to be like a early married couple.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, look, me and Brittany, we got married, we moved to Oklahoma, and she'll say it to this day, it sucked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if
She
I don't
she
know
will
if-
say it. She
Yeah.
will say it. Yep.
That's Courtney's over here smiling. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sucked. Yeah, look, we were married, got married, moved to Oklahoma, and then
Away from everybody she knew.
yeah, so
Right.
she
Yeah.
knew nothing because I was still
Yeah.
in school, right? Which I never finished because really good at not finishing things. That's a telltale sign of an addict, right?
Right.
You never do anything
Great
to
intentions.
completion.
Great intentions.
Great
Yeah.
intentions, awful
Yeah.
execution. That's a sign of a bunch of other things too. But anyway, so got married, living in Oklahoma. She's miserable because where we lived in Shawnee, there's basically nothing. Like
Yeah.
Chili's is like that's the bee's knees if
Hopping.
you're going to Chili's.
Hey.
Like
Yeah.
you're living it. And that was not the world Brittany came from. And I basically was either at school all day or at work all day afterwards, so late in the evening. So we didn't see each other a ton. So I wasn't investing in our marriage. And then we'd probably been married. Brittany's going to listen to this and she's going to get me because I'm going to get the timelines wrong, right? But I think we'd been married maybe 6 months, maybe 5 months, maybe longer.
Give a bigger range and then you're safe.
Yeah.
But let's say 5 to 8
Anywhere
months.
from 5 months to a year.
To a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Right now she's correcting me as
Yeah.
we're listening to this. And it was just awful. My parents weren't for us winning in our marriage because we're having issues, right? And Brittany was having trouble finding a job because there's nothing in Shawnee. And that was really important to my family, really important to me at the time. Like, how hard you work, that proved your worth, right? So my parents saw little worth in her at the time, right? Even though it was my wife, it was, okay, you don't
Prove
have
yourself.
a job, you're not doing
Yeah.
this, so you're not important,
Yeah.
right? And that's totally how they saw it. And that was definitely at the time, that was my mental state as well too. And I'm sure I projected a ton of that on her. I know I did. And it was bad enough that she just decided she was going to go back home for a little while in Texas. I was going to stay in Oklahoma, finish school. She was going to go back home. So that's not real conducive to a marriage getting off the
Right.
start very well.
Right.
So we were separated for probably, we'll use a range, 3 to 6 months. I don't know how long. But she went back to Texas and we still talked, and it was kind of like we were trying to work things out and figure it out. You'll finish school, you'll come down, things will get better, right? That was always the goal, right? Things
Right.
will get better.
Right.
Once we get out of Oklahoma, things will get better. And things weren't getting better, right? Things were really tough. And once again, right, awesome family that I have, as opposed to being good parents who would support and lean in and go, hey, let's figure this out. Let's do something. They were the first ones to be like, hey, we'll get you a lawyer so we can get like divorce papers drawn
Oh,
up.
boy.
Our next door neighbor knows a great lawyer. We'll go this route.
Gosh.
Done deal.
Yeah.
So like that was the support from my family, right? They didn't see any value or worth in mine and Brittany's marriage, like early on. Which
like
that's-
trying to pursue
yeah,
it
like,
being healthy and
Yeah.
good.
yeah, as opposed to my dad being a good dad and coming in and being like, hey, you idiot, you need to figure this out. You're married.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to make this work. Or you're going to put in the effort and make this work. Nope. Hey, cool. Just mulligan it, start over. No big deal. So that was like the support I got. She got more support on her side from her family, right? But once again, neither one of us had a bunch of huge Christian influences pouring into us because Brittany had been down there, had come back out to Oklahoma, and now had gone back to Texas, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of shame that comes with that. Like, oh, you're not with your husband. What's going on, right?
Yeah.
We've never even really talked about that as I'm saying it right now. So there's probably a lot of hurt there that I've never uncovered.
Yeah.
Luckily, she had a really good friend at the time from high school and college that basically told her, hey, you got married, you made a commitment before your husband and everybody else and the Lord. You need to go back where your husband is and work on it and put in the effort and make it happen. Honestly, if it had not been for that one friend of hers that said that into her life, I don't know what would have happened. Like that was the one real good Christ-like voice of reason that like spoke directly into her life on something, and it made her go, "Yep, this sucks. This is awful. I don't want to be here, but I'm going to go do it because I made a commitment before for everybody else and before the Lord, and this is who I feel like God put in my life to be with. So yeah, I'm going to go make it work." And she came back to Oklahoma. In lieu of all that time when we were separated, probably 6 months or so, right? I definitely went down not a phenomenal pathway.
But the comfortable one that you were used to.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I wasn't doing drugs or really drinking, but just hanging out with bad people, right? Yeah, I was hanging out with bad people. When you hang out with bad people, big surprise, not great things happen.
Right.
While Brittany was down there, right, I was hanging out with a lot of former people that I used to hang out with and spend time with, and got in trouble. Got in a lot of trouble, right? So I have, for everybody that doesn't know, Courtney's over here just smiling, looking at me.
What?
And Jeffrey is too. So look,
No, I'm not.
I got involved with a bank robbery, right? I was involved with a bank robbery that happened in Oklahoma, and after it was all said and done, got charged with what's called misprisioning of a felony, I believe. Misprisioning of a felony, which basically means you knew something felonious was happening, happening.
I didn't even know that was a word. Sorry, keep going.
When you read it in a big stack of papers, right? You knew a felony had happened, was happening, or was going to happen in the future, and you didn't do anything to prevent it.
Oh, okay.
That was what I was finally charged with.
I never knew that part. Yeah, that's interesting.
So that's what got me in trouble, right? But mind you, while my wife's away, I'm hanging out with people that are going to rob banks, right? Shows you the company that I kept.
Right.
So not like I said earlier, hood rat things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
They're not worried about your marriage either.
Right.
Yeah, they can care less. Like, oh, your wife's gone, man. Big deal.
Yeah.
Let's just figure this out.
A word to the wise: watch the company that you keep really close to you.
It matters.
Yeah,
it matters.
Bad company corrupts good people real fast.
Yep.
Had a former pastor that used to say, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." When he was talking about like teens, and that's totally true.
Very true.
So while Brittany's gone for 6 months, and then her and me are trying to figure out if we're going to make this work, right? She basically comes back to Oklahoma. I think a couple days after, if I remember right. Most of Oklahoma's blocked out at this point. But I think a couple days after she came back, the feds came to our house with a warrant to search the house with me and my roommates and everything like that, looking for money from a bank robbery and all this other stuff. So that's like what Brittany walked back into of like, all right, I'm going to dig in. I'm going to make my marriage work. And she comes back to basically like the FBI, like investigating her husband for bank robbery.
Every reason to go back and listen to the other people too.
Right.
Yeah. And be
Right.
like, oh,
Don't do
actually,
it.
You know what?
this guy does
Deuces.
suck.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
out.
Told you.
Yeah, I was right. So she came back to that. And that was a hard time, right? Very hard time. So I had to deal, as we have this like crumbling marriage that's trying to be like shoestring together. I'm looking at potentially going to federal prison and trying to work through all this stuff. And Brittany's still like, she's not happy, but she's there.
Yeah.
Right.
Was very unhappy, rightfully so, very justly so. I was gone for 6 months, and what the heck happened? It might have been 3 months, right? And what the heck happened? So, she comes back to that, and it was a really tough time, right? Because I'm going in getting interviewed by the FBI and polyed and doing all this stuff. And one of the guys that was involved with the whole thing, like, put a gun in my face, threatened to kill me. It was a whole,
Yeah.
once again, don't hang
Consequences
out
of
with
it.
bad
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A terrifying experience too.
Yeah, Brittany, who's probably like said 2 swear words in her entire life, and like,
She would never.
yeah, never,
Not
Yeah.
even in labor.
yeah, 2 in her 40 plus years, right? That she's probably said, or like, wouldn't speed because it's breaking the law, right? Like,
Yeah.
Brittany very straight laced, and I was not. Like, that's what she came back to.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, for people getting married, right? Oh my goodness, have a Christian counselor talk to you guys, pray over you, and have good Christian friends around your marriage
Yeah.
to support both of you,
Yeah.
right? Good Christian peer accountability that are in the same stage of life.
Mhm.
Not, I got my good buddy that I believe that walks great with the Lord. That's awesome. I've got my good buddy who's married, or I've got my good female friend who's married that your wife can go talk to. Like, have people that are in the same stage of life who are Christ followers to pour into you. And Brittany wrote it out through all that. We went through that whole process. And then the moment that was all done, which that took forever, right? We were in Texas as quickly as possible. Because at that point, it was like, hey, look,
Gotta get out.
we got to get out of this
Yeah.
life. We got to get away from all these people. We're not going to be up here. Forget school. Forget everything. Let's punch our ticket and start over, right? So we moved down to Texas. Been down here ever since. And then had to deal with all the consequences of that, of the restitution that comes from that, and then right having a felony on your record, and exorbitant amount of community service. So really blessed though. Never had to spend time in jail. Really got incredibly blessed in that whole situation after it was all said and done, because it could have gone totally differently, right? It could have been 15 to like 40 years right in prison, right?
Yeah. Different story at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I would love to say she would have died or died, but I don't know at that point. That'd have been really hard,
Yeah.
right? The first one was really hard. That'd have been crazy. But yeah, so had that, got the felony, then we moved down to Texas, and then that was kind of the end of that chapter on our life of Oklahoma. Was like, okay, all this hurt, all this happened up here, your family who's not super involved, and we're down in Texas.
Yeah.
But yeah, for early married couples, go to Christian counseling before you get married. That is vetted and legit Christian counseling, and have people that are in the same stage of life or a little ahead of you to be able to go to in times of strife. I think that's super important.
And ask hard questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing you mentioned about your other friend. It seemed like he was willing to, what are you doing? What are you doing at 2 a.m.?
Yeah.
Your other friend. So, and Landon's been like that for me, and Courtney knows that I've told people, as far as our friendship goes, which is fun doing this on this side of things,
Yeah.
is Landon's been able to be with me in some hard situations. And the cool thing is you can have, in a good friendship, you can lash out and someone still correct you and you feel loved. You know, it's like I was able to get all the feelings out and go, "You man, I hear you, but do you really mean what you said? You know, let's circle back a little bit." And so just again, to encourage people who are listening, you know, it may be like just really lonely and you're feeling all these things. It's like the hard part is just like community, you know, getting in there. It's never convenient. Use the word convenient. It's never convenient. The timing's off or whatever. But well, what you're talking about are big things, you know, like big subjects and all that kind of stuff. And so on this side of it, life is tamed down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You have a
Life is
great
very-
job.
Yeah.
Tell us about your kids and your family now and how life is, at Redemption City.
Yeah. So Brittany's still here 16 years later, right? Still putting up with everything. 3 little kiddos, Ellum, Finley, and Wyatt. And they're each one of them's a partial carbon copy of one of us, right? It's crazy, right? Our middle kiddo, Finley, he is 100% Brittany, the rule follower, really safety conscious, like concerned about everything, really sweet, really passionate. And then the other 2 are like me, for the most part, right? One of them's kind of a mix. One of them is 100% like me, and we're going to have a rough time as a teenager probably with him. That's
the one Courtney's laughing at.
Not naming
right
any
now.
names, though.
not naming those other 2.
Yeah.
We'll let that be. If you know, you know. But right, still all sweet kids. Love them
They are.
dearly. We ended up at RCC, right? We were there at the Y,
Yeah.
right?
When there was like maybe not
Yeah, it
even
was
50
early.
of us.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
pretty
early on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like when it was. So we ended up there because we were at a former church, and that was like right around the end of COVID or beginning, mid of COVID, I guess, probably the beginning of COVID. And that church did some things that we just weren't totally aligned with. And look, hurt people. I think I've heard Matt say that countless times,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
The church did some things, weren't great, and they just didn't handle it well afterwards,
Mhm.
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of those of like, all right, it's time to find somewhere. So we didn't find anywhere to go. Like we were really plugged into that church. We were really involved. We did student ministry. I did children's ministry, like loved it. It was great. So it was a big, just void in our life. Like we didn't go to church for probably 6 months on or off, I guess. Who knows? Brittany will correct the dates right when we listen to this. It's probably longer than that. But that was right when you guys were starting up RCC.
Yep.
And Brittany was like, okay, well, they have some donations and stuff that we could do, so we can just get involved, help with launch and stuff like that. And it's like, sure, we're not going to former church, we're not involved, we're not tithing. Absolutely, let's do it. Let's give a little extra so this can get going. And then it was one of those deals of, well, I'm going to be giving money. I'm going to go. I'm going to go check it out. Right. And we had met a couple times before, once or twice, I think.
Yep.
And I was like, sure, let's go. So we started going, and then it was like, oh, we love this place.
Mm.
This is the former church we were at. They had a secondary campus that was set up every day in a school.
Yep.
Right. And you come to love that set up and tear down.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
As awful as it is.
Terrible.
During the moment, when you think back, it's so sweet. And it's great. Doing
It's
pipe and drape. And
It's one of the best relationship builders,
Right.
honestly.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Like, you want to talk about how you build the hands and feet of the church. You put up pipe and drape and pinch your finger in those aluminum things a couple of times.
The
Yeah.
worst.
That'll bring you
See what you
close.
say.
Yeah, that'll bring you close to the Lord real quick. Right? So that fits such a sweet little niche because we had been in the old campus that was like a former campus at that church. And then we all got pushed back into the main campus for about a year. And then it was like, oh, we missed the setup and tear down.
Yeah.
We missed that kind of grassrootsy type church feel that it was. And then it was, hey, the why. And it was like, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
So we really loved the why, got plugged in. It was great. And it was literally because of the relationship years ago, right,
Yeah.
that you and Brittany had, right? Just
Wild. Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Like 15 years after or something like that.
Yeah.
just like from like
Yep.
middle school, high school, like totally back in the day. And I was like, yeah, sure, we'll go, we'll try it. And it totally just filled that void of not having a church home, not having just a place, right?
Mhm.
A place to connect with people and do life with people.
Mhm.
So we were there at the Y, and then came over here as we moved over here and merged with South Hills, right? And we love it. It just it works for us so well. It is. I don't want to say beautifully inconvenient, but it's beautifully inconvenient in the fact that there's 30 churches. It's more than that, probably 100 churches
Yeah.
from our home and where we live to here, right? To get here every Sunday. But this is our church home, right? And it fits so perfectly the sweet little things for our kids' lives where they've made friends and made relationships, and right the shameless plug for city groups, right? The lives and the things that are fostered through that.
Mhm.
Right.
That is how we got here. I helped a little bit with South Hills and RCC when we were kind of coming together. So that was really
a lot of it. He's
Yeah,
underselling
he's
that.
definitely underselling what he did,
Yeah,
but
financials and all the heavy lifting on some things with a great team. But yeah, you're definitely
you're
part
a
of
huge
that.
part of it.
I was just there smiling.
Yeah.
Right. So no, it was so cool to be involved with the behind the scenes, church side of things. And I feel like that probably healed a lot of like church hurt. Now that I look at it from like college, when I saw like, I don't like the way the church does this and we don't like what the other church did when we were there. Like, I feel like that healed a lot of the church hurt of, hey, look, sometimes people just make dumb decisions and do bad things. At the end of the day, like, people are people.
They're
right?
human.
And being able to come into, a group of believers that is trying to, hey, how do we bring these two congregations together so that we can, grow Fort Worth and grow the gospel in this area and reach out to people and seeing, what I would say truly is probably biased, right, at this point, but truly be able to have people from different backgrounds, people from different ethnicities, the age range, right? It is truly a very blended looking church where in a lot of churches you don't see that.
Yeah.
So no, we're super happy to be here, super happy to be plugged in. Love it. Wouldn't be anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was great.
Well, if you could sum up, this may be hard to do, just a final, encouragement, maybe for someone who feels stuck or like I specifically remember this season of Stuck I was going on stages singing about Jesus. I was in a awesome choir. I loved everybody there and living not the gospel. So maybe speak to that person of the person who's like kind of like, yeah, I made a decision, but everything else in my life doesn't look like I even believe what I'm saying.
Mm.
What would you say to that person?
I think the first and foremost is find, at least this is like what I did, right? Is find scripture and memorize scripture. Right?
Mhm.
It'd be great to have it for every situation of everything in your
Mhm.
life, right? It's not going to happen. Right? I hold a scripture verse in my head that is not horribly applicable day to day, but it's from that time when I was at church camp, right? And so it brings me back to that moment of, okay, I got to remember to rely on God for everything.
Mhm.
That's the only way we get through the
Mhm.
situation. That's the only way that I can get past this, right? Luke 2:10-12, right? So it doesn't apply every day to everything, but that's, I would say that is a cornerstone for those people that feel like they're in the loop, right? Find scripture that you can lean on that pushes you back towards the Lord,
Mhm.
right? And I would say after that first thing is, I think I said it at our group one time, right? There's moments in my life where I feel like it was, like I said, I was real legalistic at one point. Sometimes, and I had a non-Christian tell me this about being a Christ follower, and it was really like, what are you talking about,
Ironic,
man?
yeah.
Sometimes you have to drink the Kool-Aid, right?
Mhm.
And I
Like trust the process, basically.
trust the process, right? The outcome, I'm worrying. I'm not worrying. I'm trying to force an outcome. I'm trying to force this Christ-like image. I'm trying to do this. No, man. Sometimes you got to drink the Kool-Aid,
Mhm.
right? And drinking the Kool-Aid is, hey, show up to church on Sunday,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Get plugged in,
Mhm.
right? Even if you feel like, okay, I'm just doing this because I got to do this. Great. If that's how it feels day one, you just doing it because you got to do it. Awesome. Do it because you got to do it.
Mhm.
Get plugged into a group, right? Do life with people.
Yeah.
A lot of those forced, I'll say the drink the Kool-Aid scenario, right? A lot of those things that you do them initially out of, okay, I'm obligated. I got to do this. They should start producing results. But if you're stuck, you don't know how to progress your relationship with the Lord. A lot of it's because you're probably not open to allowing God just to work through you in those
Mhm.
scenarios,
Mhm.
right? Or you're not involved enough, or you're not having a quiet time.
Yeah.
For me, there was a long time that I got immersed in the Word and it didn't do anything, right? I was just doing it because I did it, because I was supposed to. And then 2 years later, you look back and, right, all those times I did it because I had to do it.
Mhm.
Oh, I remember this scripture.
Yeah.
Or I remember this. It's weird how,
It actually carried you.
Yeah.
those weird
True.
muscle memory things that at the time it was obligatory,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
it was very legalistic. And that's how I saw my faith in the beginning. A lot of those things put some core foundations out there that
Yeah.
later on you start kind of reaping that harvest a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'd say for people that feel stuck, just get plugged in
Mhm.
and be open with other Christ followers and say, I feel stuck, right? I feel like
Yeah.
I'm just here
Yep.
going through the motions.
Yep.
Right? Because you're not the only one.
Right.
Yep.
Even some of the best people that you look to probably on stage have had those moments where they're like, don't know why I'm here today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
A
Yeah.
lot of times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It happens. Like,
Yeah.
and ask those people how they can pray for you.
Yeah. It
Don't
reminds me of the John Mark Comer's book where he says you're with Jesus, then you become like Jesus, and then you do all of a sudden you're like,
Mhm.
whoa, I'm doing what Jesus did.
Right.
And his point is what you're saying. It's like the pathway is, the way of Jesus is just actually doing what Jesus did,
Mhm.
and what he showed his disciples. And
Mhm.
so I love that. I think that's a good way to end it's pretty simple. I think sometimes we complicate our walks with Jesus. It has to be, I have to remember this from my lesson that I did, my Bible study I did, my city group I did. Those are all in our heart. And maybe this is good to say over and over again as one of the pastors here. Those are just to expose you to the gospel,
Right.
Or maybe meet a new friend or, team up with someone to go, bro, none of this is making sense to me right now. We went through James and the book of James, and there was a lot of great questions there of like, I don't know how to do this whole favoritism thing, or, I don't like this person. So anyway, I think that's a good way to wrap us up. That's our prayer for you as a church, is that when you hear a story like Landon's or any of the stories, that you go, okay, I'm not by myself. There's other people on this journey with me, and I may be a little behind or ahead, but so it's okay. You're in a safe place. So Landon, thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Loved it.
This was great.
This was great.
We love
Courtney,
the Womacks here.
We love the Womacks, all of them.
All of them, yeah.
Even
And
those little babies.
yeah, if you don't know
We
the little ones,
especially love the little ones. Come hang out in kids ministry with me on a Sunday. You will have a ball.
and we won't tell you who Landon was referring to. We'll let you figure it out.
Yeah. We'll put you in a room with 3 of them and you can tell
Yeah,
us.
there'll be a test at the end.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Thanks for listening, y'all. We'll catch you at the next one.